Hello, my name is Ariana Peral, and this is my final presentation for my college course called Assessment in Special Education. Um, Before I start my presentation, I want to note that there are slides that I am going to be skipping because these slides have a lot of information that I had put, and I do not think that I will have time to go over them. But it's basically the same things that I'll be going over the main slides. So it's just like a summary. I'll be going over the summary of what I put and all that. So I'll be skipping a few slides, but I won't skip the main ones. Okay, so let me start and enjoy. Okay, so first of all, I'm going to discuss what least restricted environment is. Okay, I'm going to define what it is, and I'm going to discuss this concept as it relates to models of delivery for special services. Okay, what least restricted environment means is that a student should be able to spend the most time with their non-disabled peers. So the ideal situation from the least restricted environment is that the student be placed in the general education classroom. Why? Because that is where we will find the most students that are non-disabled, and so that is the ideal situation. And then there are laws that mention least restricted environment. One of those laws is IDEA, and what IDEA states is that students need to learn or be in classrooms where they will learn in least restricted environment, the most possible least restricted environment. And it also has regulations about that schools need to have alternative placements in the schools available for the students if they are determined that they need to be in those placements. So some examples of these are special classes, special schools, home instruction, and instruction in hospital institutions. Now, the ideal situation, like I said, is to put them in general education classrooms, but sometimes that's not possible because of their capacities, abilities, and situations. But those decisions will be determined on an individual basis by the IEPT. And then here I put the exact statement that the idea states. And I'm not going to go over it because I'm limited by time, but I wanted to put there as a good reminder for myself. And it's also found on page 40 of our textbook. And down here, I put a picture that I believe illustrates very well what least restrictive environment is. So here, as you can see, we have least restrictive, and on the other side, it says most restrictive. And down here is our ideal situation with the general education classroom. And as you go down the boxes, it becomes more restrictive. So the most restrictive is hospital residential facility. So then our goal is to, as special education teachers, our goal is to stay here. But if the student is determined they need more specialized attention, then we go down the boxes and finally all the way to here, which hopefully we don't have to go, but sometimes it's unavoidable. Okay, and that's the one I'm going to skip. Okay, and then here I'm going to talk about the assessment process. I'm going to talk about why the assessment process is described as a cycle and what are the components of the special education assessment process. And so the reason why the assessment process is described as a cycle is because there are steps in the assessment process. They are repeated. So the way they're repeated is um, the assessment process should be reevaluated every year or annually or every 3 years, and anytime there's a concern. So when that happens, then we have to follow the steps, and then we start all over when one of those things happen, and we just keep going in a cycle. And I have a picture for that. But anyways, the four main phases of the assessment process are identification and referral, and this is where the student is identified that there is a great concern for them, and the special education teachers and the general education teachers start observing and making tests to see if they are going to be eligible for IEP services. And then we go to determination of eligibility, which is where the IEP happens, and the decision for whether the student will be eligible for IEP services is decided there. And so then if they are decided that they are not eligible, the process will stop there. But if they are decided that they will be eligible, it will go to the third step, which is program planning, and this is where the IEP will be developed. And so the special education teacher decides what are the strengths and the weakness of the student, and the special education teacher also picks the goals and the services that the student will need, and then each teacher and parent or whatever will know what their role is according to what is written in this IEP. And then after that, the last step is program implementation and evaluation. And this step is where the IEP will play out. And so this is where the student will have their services, and they will be monitored to see if they are making progress, and they'll be trying to reach the goals for the student. Okay, and then here I have put a picture of the cycle of special education or the assessment process, and it is broken up into more steps than the four steps I just went over. It starts with reason for concern, and then it goes request assessment plan, form consent, assessment, IUP meeting, PLOP goals, appropriate placement determined, implementation, review IUP annually or if requested, and then whenever the yearly evaluation or the 3-year evaluation or another reason for concern comes up, then we start all over and do all the steps again. Okay, so then I'm going to skip this slide too. And here I'm going to discuss about encouraging family participation. And I'm going to describe 5 strategies a professional can use to encourage family participation in the special education assessment process. Family participation is very important because we learn a lot from the parents, and we want to make them feel valued and that they're part of the process because it is their student, their child, and they have a right to be part of this process. Okay, so one strategy is use a bilingual, bicultural, social culture mediator. Okay, the reason for this is because a lot of times there are barriers between the professionals and the parents. So like barriers such as language or culture. So like if the parent is Chinese and the special education teacher is American, there's quite a bit difference between the languages and the culture right there. So then to make things easier for both and break some barriers, we can have this kind of mediator that can help interpret and kind of reduce the misunderstandings. And so then it's going to make, both the professional and the parent feel more comfortable. And like I said, reduce misunderstandings that could happen. And then another strategy is to have written checklists or questionnaires in the family's preferred language. So this again could be like if they speak Spanish, they could have their things written in Spanish or they're able to understand. And this also breaks barriers. But there can be problems with this. Some problems can be that maybe the parent can't read or it's not up to their level. Or it's a wrong translation because a lot of times when things are translated, they're literal translations and they get really confusing when they're literal translations. Or formats may be unfamiliar and the parents can be confused about it. So, and then we have the third strategy, which is have a jargon-free conversation with the parent. And that just means that to not be using words that you only probably understand as a special education teacher, professional language, because maybe a lot of these parents are not going to be able to understand because they didn't study for special education, or they're just limited in what they know about the language. So um, the best advice for this is to just use everyday language. So language you that a special education teacher thinks that the parent will understand. And then fourth strategy is to increase the frequency of positive communication. And so one thing that is important for a special education to make sure that the parent knows is that their input is important and valued as a part of the assessment. That's part of being a good communicator, and also just to have a open communication way between the professional and the parent. And so, tell the parent uh, all the important things they need to know. Notify them by their preferred way of communication, either by emailing, calling, and then also getting their contact information, and also the special education teacher providing their contact information so that the parent can ask any questions, or if they have a concern, the special education teacher can be easily accessible. And then the fourth, um, no, oh no, sorry, the fifth strategy is be an effective communicator in general. So the textbook talked about three qualities for an effective communicator. It is respect, a non-judgmental attitude, and listening. Okay, and then here I found two great pictures that have some really awesome tips that, and of course it's for the medical field, but I think they're really awesome too for the special education teacher. There's 5 tips for non-judgmental listening, and then dealing with angry patients, communication skills. Here we have some of the skills we talked about, but it also includes support, flexibility, and empathy, and I thought those were really good to include. Okay, I'm gonna skip that slide. Here I'm going to discuss about percentile ranks, standard scores, and Stannies. Stannies. Sorry, I might be pronouncing that word wrong. Sorry, but sometimes I have pronunciation problems, so forgive me. And so I'm going to compare and contrast these derived scores, and I'm going to tell how the scores are related to one another into the normal distribution. And I do have a picture, not a sketch, but a picture that I found that is actually from the textbook. And so I'm going to go over that in a few minutes. But first of all, one thing that I found that they have in common is that they're all norm reference. And what this means is that they take the individual score and they compare it to a group of other scores, or the norm reference group. And I kind of saw all of them that they're kind of like grading by the curve, because they take a score and they they get it, and they put it in a certain place according to the average. And so, like, if a student got a 40, um, and then most kids got a 42, the student would be regarded as being average, because they're close to the average. And so then if a student got a maybe like a 60, they'd probably be in the 99 percentile, because they were one deviation from the average. And then also I noticed that they all try to get scores from the same age or grade levels. So then here I have the picture from our textbook, and so here it shows the standards scores, and all of these are standard scores. They're just different types of standard scores. Here's the percentile and the styling. Some things that are also in common are that they have like a range that's the same, like the average is in the middle here, low average is here, high average is here. Some differences are that their numbers are different. Like the standard scores are go from from 55 to 100 to 145, 1 to 10 in the subscale. Well, that's part of the standard score, sorry. But percentile goes from 1 to 99. Stanine goes from 1 to 9. So the numbers are kind of different. And also the standard deviation can be different. Like here on standard score, it's 15, 15 down and 15 up. And then the percentile, there's no standard deviation there, but in Steinite, it's 1 down and 1 up. And so that's one of the other differences. The another commonality, I think, is that I feel like they're all kind of like cooking ingredients, where they all just represent the same thing but in a different way. And that's what I see. So anyways, I think that's all I have for similarities and common and differences for this. And that is the end of my presentation. So I will end it right now. Thank you for watching. Bye.